How do you handle things in your classroom when they don't go as planned?
Well, that's going to happen. You've got to expect it, and I know that a lot of faculty aren't comfortable with things that get broken in the classroom if it doesn't go well. So how do I handle it? Well, I do practice the technology beforehand so that it's not because of me that it messes up. Typically, it's not because of me. And I used to make a big deal, you know, if it didn't, I'd make a big deal how this is not my fault. It's not my fault that it happens. But I've gotten to where it is no big deal. I just kind of switch over to maybe using the chalkboard while we work towards a place where they can be working on something where I can fix the technology if it broke. And I don't so much worry about them judging me as an instructor because the technology doesn't work. Nobody has ever in my evaluations, I don't think they've ever commented on, gosh, she needs to get a handle, or she needs to quit using technology because it didn't work well.
Mm-hmm. What about if there was an error in, say, the presentation? How would you handle that? Because that's another hiccup that does sometimes happen, is we do work to put together a good presentation, and sometimes there is something that's not quite right, and a student catches us on it.
Yes, I'm always amazed that I can use a PowerPoint for 4 years and not notice a mistake, and then suddenly there it is glaring at me. Or maybe I created this PowerPoint the night before, had this great idea, incorporated it, and then the student says, Dr. Woodrum, is that right? And I have to look at it and say, no, it's not. You're right. So I generally, I don't have that big a deal with it. I just kind of play it off. Oh, I must have, you know, drank too much coffee when I was putting this together or something, and just point out that they are completely right, that was supposed to say this and not that, and we just move on with it. And again, I don't have anybody saying, boy, she's a moron because she said pentane instead of propane in her PowerPoint. So I do not worry about that so much. I just play it off, I guess.
How did you first react when these types of problems arose, such as either with the technology or with, you know, a hiccup? I mean, as a new instructor, freshly minted PhD, you are now the expert. Mm-hmm. How did that come across?
Well, early on I did worry a whole lot more about what my students thought of me, mainly because when I was a student, I always revered my professors as being in some lofty level of intelligence because they'd walk in without their notes, they'd start writing on the chalkboard, they could talk for 50 minutes without stopping about stuff I'd never heard of before, and I thought they were just intellectually giants. So I worried that if I stepped in and messed up that my students wouldn't revere me like that. Well, I got over wanting to be revered like that, and I wanted them to know that I am human and I'm very approachable, and so I got over that. But at first it was hard. If I misspelled a word, because at first it was chalkboard, I used to have students correct my spelling, and that mortified me. I just didn't, and so I got to the point where at the beginning of a lecture, at the beginning of the semester, I'd say, by the way, my spelling is poor. You know, I've got dyslexia, it's just what we have, and if you can't recognize what I'm writing, ask and I'll tell you. Otherwise, you don't need to correct my spelling. So that was where it started, and then, you know, with PowerPoint, I got to cure that. But now where I'm going back and doing more using the digital pad, I'm right back to where I could easily misspell a word or write so poorly that they don't see what I'm writing. But at first it was hard. But I got over wanting people to think I was very, very bright.
How long was that process? Did it take for you to get to where you are now from where you began?
Where I began, it was probably, truthfully, about 7 years into it before I could relax fully.
Okay. Thank you.
Took a while.